All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Entheos Academy board meeting for October 28th, 2021. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Hasmin's going to lead us in that.
Okay. All right.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Adrian, is going to lead us in the mission statement.
Okay. The mission of Entheos is to inspire the rising generation to reach the heights
of their potential, ignite their curiosity, center challenging experiences, and empower them to be leaders through service who are committed to family and community, where they can achieve their goals and dreams.
All right, just because it's written up on the wall big, that doesn't mean we can cheat. Diamond. All right. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes from the 9/23 meeting, as well as the consent agenda. Before we motion for the approval, did anyone have any issues or mistakes in the minutes that needed to be corrected? All right, then I motion we approve the minutes from 9/23 and the consent agenda.
next year.
Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Were there any corrections to the 9/23 minutes? All right, I motion we approve the minutes from 9/23/2021 and the consent agenda. Is there a second? I didn't hear. Is that Adrian? All right, thanks. All right, any other questions or concerns from the board? Nope. Then we will vote. Deb?
Deb, aye.
Karen?
Karen, aye.
Hasmin?
Hasmin, aye.
Adrian?
Adrian, aye.
And Stephanie?
Stephanie, aye.
Awesome. Minutes are approved, and so is the consent agenda. Karen, you have the board. Welcome.
I do. When Annette emailed me and said I could just pick anything that I felt inspired to talk about because we'd already gone through all the values. I just kept coming back to patriotism, and I know that we already went over that value, but it was something that I thought maybe I could just give my feelings and perspective on. And I love the first sentence in the value statement about patriotism. It says, "We believe that love for country is developed at an early age." And I totally believe that. My dad was a very patriotic man, and he instilled it in all of us kids. And so to me, it's always been something that was important to me. And all through my teaching career, even though it wasn't always in my curriculum, I've always taught a patriotic unit, talked to the kids about patriotism. Every day before we say the pledge, we sing a pledge song. I think patriotic music brings a feeling of pride in their country for the kids, for all of us. And right now we're in the process of voting in municipal elections. It's almost Veterans Day. It's a time when we think a lot about our country. And the first thing that I guess it really hit me about our patriotism value at Entheos was when my first year there, when I saw our Veterans Day program. I could not believe we had that amazing program every year, and I really miss it now because of COVID, but I was so impressed with the speakers and the students who wrote essays and the music that the children sang. And I was always very fortunate to, third grade was always put up at the front on the one corner, so I could see all the veterans' faces and to watch them, and some of them had tears rolling down their faces. And to have the kids share about their relatives who had served in the armed forces and to put their pictures all up along the back of the gym. And I just was so touched by all of that. And I thought, what an amazing thing for these students that they don't get in very many schools, that they get this feeling of pride in their country. And I know every time they sing Off We Go Into the Wild Blue Yonder for the the Air Force, I get teary because my dad was in the Air Force. But I'm a news watcher, and I think we hear so many negative things about our country in the news and about all the strife and no one's getting along and there are all these problems. And so I think it's so important that we help these children know about all the good things about our country. And if you look in the world, all these people are trying to get into America, into our country. There's a reason for that. And just to help them to feel the pride in their country and to love their country. And so I just wanted to give my little message about patriotism and how much I love what we do at Entheos with patriotism.
Thank you so much, Karen. That's awesome. All right, next up on the agenda is our response to public comment. Do we have any? Nope. All right. Then we'll move directly into the executive director's report. Sue and Dina, I believe, are tag teaming this one.
Yep, I'll take the first part. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop me.
Yep.
The first thing is the value of the month.
Hang on, Annette, are you going to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Okay, give us a sec, Sue, so we can pull that up. Perfect, thank you.
I just want you to know that, as always, Esther put this together, and she does it so comprehensively, does such a good job that there really isn't much that you need to say about it because it speaks for itself. So the first, the next slide, just has our value of the month and the design principle of the month. And in the next slide, we have our upcoming calendar dates for both magnet and turns. Any questions there? Yeah.
So Veterans Day, that's something that we should attend. Is there something else that would be a good thing for us to come to for either campus? Both campuses, Veterans Day will be virtual, so we'll be sending those out because of COVID. Are still high, and bringing elderly people into the building. We did decide at both campuses to have a virtual.
But you are certainly welcome to attend. You can welcome to school anytime, and then you can see that fourth grade has a celebration of learning over in turns that we always appreciate when board members attend the celebration of learning. So, and then we also have the district literacy night. That what's that?
It's on the 9th. It's not on.
Oh, okay, so it's on the 9th. And so that's something that we expect to have a lot of parents that might be to attend.
So that says it's the 8th, but it's not 8th.
Yeah, it's actually the 9th over in Turns, but they have a literacy night. It says Turns, but I believe that's for Magna on the 8th. That is it at both? Oh, it's in for both.
Yeah.
So that would be a very good thing for board members to attend if they could, because we'll have a lot of parents there. Have that interaction with them. Okay, next slide. We have a COVID-19 update. Everything is pretty much the same here. We do have the cases that kind of go up and down in the schools, but the kids are going to be able to have shots soon, the vaccination soon, so we expect to see some improvement there. The next one would be Magna. We have the enrollment, and you can see those enrollment numbers. We're currently very happy with the enrollment numbers at both schools. You see Kearns and Magna. The enrollment numbers and our wait lists are healthy. Any questions?
That's great.
Okay, Dina's turn.
Okay, so mine is just about the same as Sue's. You can see the beginning of the data. We've got all of those assessments done. So you can see the Cadence Reading for both the Kearns and Ivy campus, the iReady reading, and the iReady math scores on there. Student-led conferences, those went really well at both campuses. We did have it in person. And so, yep. And the line trust updates. You guys worry about that. Grants and applications. There's a lot of business going on behind the scenes for all of that. So, you know, that's right.
So the grants are ones that are, the grants are coming from, most of them are coming from the federal government and the state, and then we just have to go in and complete the applications, but it's not us. Yeah, so, yeah.
It's not,
There are quite a few that are associated with COVID.
yeah, they're not real grants like Deb gets us. They're like money that they're saying, oh, look, here's extra money. How are you going to use it? And then they're calling them grants because they're not going to be on.
But we do want to say that it is an awful lot of work to submit those, and Esther does the majority of that, which we always appreciate. She's so wonderful.
Esther is amazing. All of that. And then the information about the comprehensive charter review and the Exhibit A process, and the information on there, which you guys know much more about that than either Sue or I do. And then we have a group of people that went through and got their English language endorsement through the state. And questions?
Notice that we have two of them here this evening.
So I did have a question, and it was under the annual assurance of Exhibit A, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it's at. I wondered if I need to get another background check.
Yes, I think you have one already, that it was the volunteer one that we have for the school. But I will check to make sure, but I believe you already have a volunteer background check, which still is the same thing.
Okay, and then.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have another question, Rod.
Yeah.
As I was looking through again, more things in Exhibit A, I wondered if it's asking, so it was just the wording, it said administrator, the administrator's expectations. Is that meaning the board's expectations of our administrator? Anybody else?
I am not sure.
That part I don't know, but
Okay, and then I wondered if we have that still. I know we've had that in the past. Do we have the expectations that have gone out to our administrator or to?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Esther has all of that, and she would probably be more appropriate person to ask, because she does have observation forms and rubrics and all of that that she can get for you.
Well, that's, I just remember, Rod, you were big on that when I was on the board, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So I just have that. And the other thing was the expectations of school and staff based on the charter. And I wondered if we have that. Is that something we have? Does anybody know?
I believe Esther still keeps those actually,
Okay.
but we can double.
That's something she creates, or that's something that we as a board are supposed to create and make sure she does the things that we have on.
I would see it as more of a collaborative effort between us and Esther, but
But we do have that. I'm just curious.
I think we'll need to double check with Esther. I'm pretty positive we do, but I don't want to speak for her. I'm pretty sure that they exist.
On that, because I remember talking about this before. Okay, I think that was it.
Maybe you remember.
Any other questions?
And we still do an administrator's annual review, right?
Yes.
Of Esther, yes.
Michael, this is good to update myself on this. Okay, awesome. And then Esther, that's the directors. Yeah, yeah.
All right, anything else? All right, then we will go to Jason for the Magna Director's Report.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and I'll wait for Annette to get that up. All right. So just starting off, remember last month we had some incomplete pictures of our windows here, but now they're completed. So these are the finished products. Hopefully we're able to see them. It's kind of dark outside, but you maybe could see them outside as you drove in.
It wasn't that dark when we first got here.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
good. But they look phenomenal, and I can't thank Melanie and Sue enough for getting this taken care of, and they just look so wonderful. Moving on to our PCO. PCO has been doing great this week. We had Red Ribbon Week, and we're able to do a lot of activities with the kids, thanks to the planning of the PCO, and they were able to feed our teachers at student-led conferences as well. And we have a book fair coming up next month. Right, service learning from Melanie. So Ms. Price's third grade crew has been doing service every single week. They do it every Friday, just little things around the school, whether that's cleaning things up on our playground, making paper dolls for certain classes to use in their classrooms, and just making thank you cards for people, just lots of little nice things. They cleaned the adventure tents, which was great. And then we had some other people involved in service as well. And Mr. Edvig and Mr. Sterling gave out character awards for our students on the adventure trips. Just lots of fun stuff involved with service so far. And here's our third graders cleaning the very dirty tents from the camping trip. It was a little rainy down there, but they enjoyed it. So here's the adventure trip down at Cedar City. The first day was really rainy, but after that they got pretty good weather and were able to enjoy themselves. Right, on the staff recognition. So one of our fifth grade teachers, Katie Ellis, this is her second year at Entheos and has just really been shining in the last couple of years and stepping up in a lot of big ways. She's also part of our character crew as well that we've developed this year, and it's just been a great addition to that. And so she has just had a variety of roles. She started out as a para and is now a teacher at Entheos, and so that's really exciting. She's been able to really grow throughout our school. She has a lot of fun teaching and loves just building relationships with the kids and really working hard with them on delivering the curriculum and making their learning engaging and fun. And then we have our new social studies teacher this year, Tanya Rausch. So she comes to us with lots of teaching experience and was just most recently in California. She's lived kind of in several different states, but was just in California and came to the little bit colder weather. And so she's taught middle school, high school, junior high, and is now doing a great job and making a big impact on our middle school students here. And they love her. They love Ms. Rausch's class. She fits in so well with the staff and just gets along with everyone. Is just terrific to collaborate with. And the kids are really enjoying her class. And she just has a passion for teaching and just loves history and really brings a lot of fun ideas out with the kids. Right, Taylor Cooper is our middle school para that we're highlighting today. He works with Mrs. Strauss in math, most specifically, but he is just up for anything and really loves challenges and is just here for the kids and has a lot of fun with the kids all the time and really enjoys helping them learn. And this comes from Mrs. Fouts that he's just established that good rapport. It's been great working. It's been great working with someone that likes to anticipate what the need is rather than her having to ask him to do it all the time. She's very grateful for that and for him, whether that's taking the class for a few minutes if she needs to deal with some student behavior or other things like that. But he's always keeping himself busy and doing whatever he can to help anyone in the staff really, and also the students as well. Works with small groups and does an amazing job. Right, our work plan, MKS. So the most recent thing that we've been working on is really meeting with our data inquiry teams on a weekly basis. Really trying to discuss the data and dive a little bit deeper in that. So we're getting kids in their proper tier 2 and tier 3 placement as according to their scores that they're getting. So that's been our most recent work in our MKS department. And we've got some beginning of the year data. You saw a little bit of it in the executive report, but assuming you've all had a chance to look at this, and you can see that students in grades 1 through 3 are showing a slight improvement this year compared to last year, which is great. But we know that the last 3 years have been very challenging. Okay, iReady reading data kind of showed similar things. So students in grades 2 and 3 and 5 through 8 coming in very low to start the school year. Just again, another possible result of the events that have taken place over the last couple of years. And you'll see similar things in the math data as well. Right. Our character work plan goal. So our teachers have been bringing samples of greetings, readings, initiatives, and school values. We have a big focus on crew this year, as you guys know, but we're bringing those examples each morning to Circle Up, and it makes Circle Up a lot of fun and very inviting and makes people ready to start the day. Really kind of provides an energizer type feeling to the morning. It's something that really engages them and helps build the culture and really just helps build the relationships amongst the staff. We're continuing to read the We Are Crew book to make sure that we're teaching and learning about the power of crew to make it better for our students and more engaging. Okay, high quality work. We currently have a number of teachers working on high quality products right now, which we're super excited about. We're nearing that end of trimester here in a couple of weeks, so people are trying to finish up high quality products by that time, and which really puts us quite a bit ahead of last year's schedule of high quality products. So super excited to have that rolling, and teachers are just doing a good job with it. All right, our outdoor learning center. So our PCO organized an outdoor service evening where we had a bunch of parents come and help put our picnic tables together. I don't know if you could see them. They were a little bit under the water out there, the lake that's been forming. They look really nice, and the kids have been loving them. They've been sitting there at lunch and just hanging out, and which is exactly what we wanted them for right now. And you can see that pavilion's been all finished and everything. And if it wasn't flooded, it would have been a little bit nicer. But we're working on that. So the tables, really just add some color out there and add some life to it. And we're getting little pieces by little pieces put together here. And the kids are really enjoying that. And we're super grateful to the parents and the kids that came and helped put the tables together. And they did it in like record time. It was lightning fast, and they were just moving right along and didn't need instructions, and they just did it. And it was awesome. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Are there any questions?
I would sure love to see some of those products that deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to see them.
I love the information that we are getting from the reports, but boy, I would sure love to have maybe teachers come or maybe report together on this that's showing us more about the expeditions that are being done. Where are they going on field work, and what service are they doing for the field work? How does it tie in? It just, it'd be so neat to hear more of that information instead of so much. I mean, we have to have the testing, right? We have to, or we have to see that, but when that's the bulk of what we see, and we're not seeing what amazing things are happening as far as the learning in the classrooms, like we're hearing about it, but I want to see it. Like I love to meet a couple teachers each board meeting and have them come and actually tell all about their expeditions. Yeah. And just really see that, yep, that's the vision. That's what we were hoping. And it used to happen like that. And it's just so, we felt like, even though we're not here in the school every single day, we knew what was going on in school because we came to board meeting and we found out. We were like, we could go then brag about our school. And yes, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of amazing things that I think I can brag about. Absolutely, it's so cool. You talked about some of those things the teachers are doing, like the teachers that you highlighted. I want to talk to them, or I want to see more of what they're doing, like the history teacher. Okay, so what's she doing that's making her history so amazing? Okay. So no, I like that idea. Awesome, thank you, Stephanie.
Hey. Jason, I had a couple of questions. Cadence Reading versus iReady Reading. Are they not anywhere synced in what they're looking for?
No, it's very different. Dina can probably explain more in depth, but I mean, really, the Cadence focuses a lot on fluency.
Okay.
That goes where iReady is very comprehension based, and so I mean, Dina, iReady, now you want to.
Right, it's just a moment in time. It captures one assessment, one day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Also, Cadence is a 1 minute time test. And
Yeah.
so it's very, like Sue said, and if you can get one score one day and the next day get a completely different score. But that's the one that state wants us.
It's required.
All right, so that's the one the state loves or wants us to use or whatever. Do we feel like we get a better feel from iReady then?
iReady, it's very difficult because iReady is on the computer, and so not all students put in their full effort to that. And it does take a lot longer to do that test, but it does go into a lot of different areas. But their results from that is what gives us the tier 2 access that they can then use on the computer to do their interventions to help them get up on grade level for the people who are behind. And so really both of them are necessary, and you really need to use both data points to figure out what's going on with the student.
Okay.
Is reflective of what's actually going on in the classroom, because I know with at least one of my students, some of the things that were coming up, this was last year, so it was when we were at home. But some of the scores that were coming up on iReady, her teacher even told me this is not reflective of how she's really doing at all.
Yeah, it's very hard because it is the student's attitude towards taking that test. They really do have to try, and they really do have to put in full effort.
She does though, so and so that was why I'm concerned, is because.
And not everybody tests well on a computer, and that is the honest truth. And some people with the Cadence Reading, where they sit there with a person and can talk to a person about what they read, they do better on that type of test. And that's why it really takes the teacher looking at all those results, because the teacher can assign different grades, different assignment levels on iReady if they think that it isn't really right. And
in that case, we have to really be communicating with the teacher, which is hard because I don't see everything she does. And I don't think any parents see everything they do on iReady to really know. Yeah, it was because it was last year, she was home more, that I was able to know that.
Yeah, and it is the thing, and it's why teachers really, that's why we do progress monitoring, where they read with them once a week, all the time, so that they can see where they are and make those adjustments, and make those changes as they see them, and as they know if it's not working or not.
We found the iReady diagnostic questions to be similar to what they asked them on the RISE test, as far as the questioning goes. So that really helps prepare them for that end of year testing as well, because it is, the kids need to build stamina to be able to sit there and go through that test on the computer.
Yeah, that's good.
So I have another question. So it's pretty common for kindergarten to be 100%.
So, yeah.
Congratulate someone that I don't understand.
No, well, so kindergarten, they don't have a red level at the beginning of the year. They go yellow or green. And this is the beginning of the year view, which really shows that their standards for the beginning of the year are being met in that math area, if that makes sense. Right. Well, and this is the beginning of year view. So it says that they're where they should be at the beginning of the year.
All of them, right?
Yes.
That's impressive, right?
Well, they haven't really been taught all of that kindergarten stuff yet. This is just saying that they're ready for that. And, because the bar will move as the year goes on, right? And we'll start to see kids either fall back or make growth in that area.
All right. And any other questions?
When I was looking at the report, I don't know what I wasn't doing right. I tried to make it so I could see the numbers better on those graphs, but I couldn't see that whatever I did. Is there a way to?
I mean, I can send them bigger, I think, to you guys, and just shrinking it down to fit on the slide,
I
yeah.
couldn't figure out how to make them any bigger, so I
Sure.
really was kind of in the dark on those. I wouldn't know what you said about them because I could not see.
Okay, and is that for all the graphs?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep, I can do that. I'll just resend it out to everyone.
All right. Anything else for Jason? The Nyman, you're up.
Very good. Okay. As with the Magnet report, it covers the same major areas. These first two sections are about service learning, service and adventure learning. The other is about the activities of the POC. And rather than go through these things individually, I hear Stephanie's request to be able to present this to the board in ways that is more tangible rather than just a list of this. I'll try to give some thought to that by next month. Both of these lists are basically just a list of the activities that are going on this fall up to this point. And I see these reports basically as an assurance to the board that we are in fact in these areas dubious, very conscientiously following the students' mission and aspirations in both of these areas. And you can see these various activities as evidence of that. So you can look through those and rather than me read through them, there they are. You probably had a chance to see those. Yes.
Is third grade still doing the book drive?
Let's see.
They are.
Yeah.
They have to take.
So if I have a bunch of books that I would love to donate,
Mhm.
okay.
There you go. Yeah. The next three slides after those are our staff recognition, which I think is extremely important. It's where the rubber really meets the road. We have an elementary school teacher, a secondary teacher, and one of our instructors, one of our paras. So first of all, with the elementary school teacher, Laura here, this is a beautiful summary which Denise provided here. And just to kind of summarize this, I was in her class just yesterday, observing her for about a half hour. If you've never been in her class, in addition to these, I mean, Denise really captures the essence of who she is. But two of the things that really impressed me about her was how extremely rational and well-ordered just the physical aspect of her classroom was, immediately calming to students. And the tone of her voice is so gentle and so low that the students' own exuberance, shall I say, would match and come down to that level. I told her in my notes to her that, you know, my own two children are now in their 20s, but if they had had a teacher like her at this time in their life, I would have just been delighted as a parent to have a child in class that calm, that so well ordered, that affectionate. It just exudes that in her class. If you ever have a chance to drop in there, I'd invite you to do so. The second teacher we have here is our middle school teacher, Miss Erickson, who joined us this year. I think in addition to what has been said here is just her almost unbridled exuberance and energy that she brings to everything she does. She has thrown herself into Entheos fully with all of her energy this year. She comes across as a person who's been a veteran teacher here for many, many years. Has completely embraced it, has thrown herself into it. And you feel that urgency and that energy just even in the ordinary conversations you have with her, and that also comes through in your class. So we're looking forward to having a great and long-lasting relationship with her. The next slide is of one of our long-serving para-educators. She deserves a special medal right now. She's been at Entheos again for many years. A very calm demeanor, serves in the kindergarten. At the beginning of this year, one of our also very excellent kindergarten teachers had an unexpected illness that took her out of the classroom for an extended period of time. Heather was able to step into that position and handle that, and it happens to be a rather challenging class, as classes each have their own character, and this class has a particular challenging little character to it overall. She was able to step into that role masterfully, which I think is even in these times of difficulty in hiring. Here's a person who's been here for many years, and that depth of our bench, if you will, serves our students very well. She deserves a medal for how she stepped in Miss Ryan's place, was ready to do that. So hats off to her as well in that very challenging situation. The next slides are our three areas of emphasis at school: mastery of knowledge and skills, character, and high quality work. And as you can see, our goals that are restated here, that we're trying to follow the steps that we've taken so far in that. We can get to more detail of that if you would like to do it. But moving on to the graphs, the next. Yes, sure.
What is typical growth?
Where are you looking?
It was on the slide.
Okay.
The goal is 65% of students who make typical or better growth.
Typical is
Yeah.
a year's worth of growth, or
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So the state has standards in mind of what students will progress. So that's what we would.
That's what
A year's worth of growth for a year's worth of effort is what we're looking for.
Or step, if a student's behind, it's what they
Mhm.
should make to try to make it up.
That's
to
right.
catch up with other kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to catch up, and it can be like in iReady, they have it set of what they think a student should make, and in Entheos, they have it set what a student should make. And it's not to get up to fourth grade. So, let's say we have a fourth grader who's behind, it won't be to make fourth grade. They may
Whatever those programs are
But
saying.
yes, to help that kiddo as much as at the pace they're at now, how can we get them there if we do our work in small groups and help them as much as we can? And we're hoping a lot of these kiddos get way higher, like, we say we want to, 100%, and they get 200% or 158% growth, which is showing that they've done more than what that program thought they could do.
Awesome. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, very good. So, okay, so if we can, go ahead to that slide. That's great. So these are our Cadence reading, as you mentioned. Those are what used to be called Dibbles scores. It's difficult to when I look at these graphs, especially at the beginning of the year. What they convey to me and what they generate in me is not so much conclusions, but rather questions, and we're trying to points of departure, if you will, for teachers themselves to self-reflect, and we're trying to use that as well, not just for our teachers, but for us as administration, as a team. And so we'd expect these to be raising more questions than they do answers at this point. Anyone can look at these and come up with various theories as to why these graphs look like they are. In this particular case, on this graph, one thing that sort of jumps out almost immediately to me when I see this, other things might jump out to you, are our kindergarten scores, which you can see a pattern there. The red meaning kids who are less prepared, the blue meaning kids that are more prepared. And we can see over time, over the last 3 years, that the number of students entering kindergarten who seem to be less and less prepared, there seems to be a consistent pattern there, both here and at Magna. I have theories as to why that is the case. I think part of it probably has to do with COVID, but there might be other things as well. It raises a question as to why Why that is our population changing? Is it because of COVID? What is taking place there? And the thing that's helpful about the kindergarten scores is that these kids are coming in fresh. You can't blame it on a previous teacher or something else. These kids are coming this way, both at Magna and at Kearns. So that's a very intriguing graph, that first one to me. The next three graphs can be a little bit confusing. They're beginning of year scores, and to really grasp these, and you mentioned, Stephanie, you'd like to see kind of a deeper dive or more articulation of this data, which we can slice and dice in various ways. In the spirit of kind of brevity for this, these are first grade 1 year compared to the other, second grade 1 year compared to the other, third grade 1 year compared to the other, which in and of themselves, each of these is a different cohort of students. So as you see things go up and down from year to year, it depends. You might have a class that's ahead, you might have classes behind. And so what would be interesting for you to do, for example, and what I do, and what we can do even if you're interested in this, is if you look at the bottom thing of third graders of the 21-22, compare it to the second graders of 2021, compare it to the first graders of 19-20. Then you have a rough cohort going through.
Yeah, I did that. I just couldn't see the numbers all to make sure it was getting all correctly. So no, that's very helpful. It's very helpful. The more detail you can go into these graphs, sometimes they don't explain a lot of what everything means. That's
right. And so this is a snapshot of these on this campus only. To really get a fuller picture, and these are things that we're doing with our teachers in our data meetings, is slicing and dicing it like this, trying to follow cohorts of kids to see whether or not we can pinpoint whether or not the instruction in some grades or some teachers is stronger than others, which gives us an opportunity to go in and help teachers which may not be as effective as others, or to see whether or not particular grades have a kind of a persistent problem going through. And also to compare Magna with Kearns, which are kind of nice control groups as well. Because if we see certain issues arising at Kearns in certain grades that are not occurring at Magna, in very specific grades, it might indicate that certain teachers, since we're using the same curriculum, it might not be about the curriculum, it might not be about the students, it might be about the teacher, because we can see Magna teachers doing better in some areas or not as well as certain areas. So this is the exercise we're going through with teachers. It raises more. So the next two slides are our iReading and iReady math. iReady reading and iReady math. Now the iReady reading scores, and again, we've already kind of plowed the ground of how these relate with the cadence and all that, so I won't replow that. But as I looked at this, and as I looked at Magna, again, these are questions that come up in my mind. Dina, Denise, our teachers might come up with other ones. But one thing that I found very intriguing, just with looking at iReady alone, was how our kindergarten, first grade, our lower grade teachers in the early reading skills seem to do very well. But then down in the lower right-hand corner, we see sort of the placement domains, generally speaking, and we see that on both Mag and Kearns, that there seems to be a shift in comprehension that goes down. I have my own theories as to why that might be the case, of why our kids do so well in their fundamental reading skills, according to iReady reading. But then there seems to be a falling off with comprehension. And I'm new to the school. I have a theory. My suspicion might be that it has to do with English language learners and what language is being spoken in the home, as well as what kind of literature the kids are reading, the level of literature they're reading, which becomes more evident as kids get older in respect to reading comprehension, if we're limited in that way. It's possible for a student to be able to code every single word on the page and read it with great accuracy. And according to iReady reading, we're very effective at doing that. And yet, if they live in an environment where they don't have books, or which is not literature rich, or perhaps the level of English language they're hearing on a day-to-day basis is not too advanced, you will begin to see as they get older a drop off in reading comprehension, even though they can decode everywhere on the page. That's my theory. Whether that's taking place or not, we need more data. But I found that intriguing.
I
Yeah.
think there are a couple other factors there too.
Yeah.
One of them is the higher grade we get,
Mhm.
the more we're getting new students in rather than
Oh, that's
consistent
true.
students.
There you
And
go.
so the cohort is less of a cohort
There you go.
as they get older.
Mhm.
With English language learning, the other thing you see is there is a period of time where kids who speak 2 languages, that's definitely a benefit, but it takes a while for that benefit to
Yes.
show up.
Yep.
That for a while, their poor brains are juggling 2 languages, and that
Yeah.
takes a while for that to develop. And so sometimes in those
Yeah.
low grades, you'll see some of that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, these are, I mean, see, it's not as straightforward as it appears on the surface.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I
Yeah.
appreciate yours.
Yeah. So I already mapped the same thing that, I mean, basically the same sort of mix that Jason mentioned. And again, speaking to what Deb just said, if you look down the lower right-hand corner, we don't see that same pattern with respect to math that we see with reading, which again, I find intriguing. Again, raises questions, but it makes one, scratch one's head. And this is what we're doing at this time with our faculty on a weekly basis in our data meetings, everything else. If we'll go to the next slides, we have character and we have our high quality work plan. So we really character as with Magna, we too, our character groups are focusing very specifically on certain chapters in those EL books on crew and character, and they're drawing their training from that. And with respect to high quality work, again, we are also, I mean, it's you can see the bullet points there, what we're doing. The most recent thing, which was very charming, I'll call your attention to the last bullet. If you have the chance to see the very charming 3rd grade culminating presentation in the lunchroom, it was delightful, a delightful experience. So you can look at those things. The last slide is something that is unsolicited, and I'm not going to spend any time on it. I'm going to every month, maybe not make reference to it, but I'm going to just add for your edification a suggested reading that has relevance to education on sort of a higher 30,000-foot level that you can either read or not read if a little blurb looks interesting to you. It may or may not be directly related to Entheos, but it's a reading that has intrigued me, and that in reading it has lifted my sights above the trees within the forest that I often perseverate on a day-to-day basis. So I just add that there for your own enjoyment. It's if you like it, great. If not, that's fine. Okay.
Thank you very much, Nyman. Anybody,
Welcome.
any questions from the board for Nyman? All right. What?
Yes.
Last time when I had mentioned how I would love to see the teachers working on the vision packet as well as the design principles and then the vision statement. Not the whole vision packet.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably some helpful things in there too, but it's a lot. But that was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome, both of you. It was awesome.
All right, Deb, you're up for the finance
All right.
and budget report.
Couple things to talk about. They're still just wrapping up our audit. It's just about done, but we don't have those results back. So we're still kind of in the middle of that, and well, in the middle, at the end of that. But couple other highlights. You all have in your packet all of the different reports we have. There is now a board report sheet in there that you may have seen for that kind of those areas of the budget the board is responsible for. We still, other than Annette's salary, really haven't spent any money out of that. So my first question before we go on is, are there is there anything we need to look at in the next month or two that we do need to be purchasing or doing as far as the board?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Only if you have a
Okay.
miracle.
We had talked just in the future, we had talked about, I believe there's some money in there, Rod, for some staff, like an event, I believe, like a kind of like a party or a celebration.
Yeah, we need to get it on the agenda and discuss what that looks like for sure.
Yeah, maybe, is that something we're thinking we want to hold in like December, or when do we want that event to take place? Because
I don't know. It was an idea. I know like way back in the past, we used to do some sort of a little get together. Started fairly formal and then became more informal as time went by, and then sort of went on the wayside. I think it would be fun sometime either at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, for the board and the administration and the staff to all have some sort of a night where we could mingle and just do something. It doesn't have to be super formal. Does anybody else on the board have any thoughts on that? And we used to do like a Christmas party that was all decked out, but I mean, that's sort of.
I know that Esther was wanting to start doing something with like the staff and board and administration, but I feel like it was more than once a year, like maybe like quarterly or
Yeah,
something.
she wanted to have a dinner where we invited the staff to board meeting every time she was in town, which I think the plan was quarterly.
Okay. So I don't know if that's something.
so maybe next month
put in
we
our
ought to
budget.
talk about that. I think there's actually already funding in the budget to do something like, does that make sense? The money's already kind of set aside. We just have to figure out how we want to talk about that and decide what we're doing with that money. So.
Yeah, and I think to like some of Stephanie's comments earlier, it's just fun for the board to get moments where we can talk and interact with the staff. So let's put it on the agenda for next meeting to kind of discuss, and when Esther's back in town and I meet with her, I can talk to her about what she was thinking that to be like. I was looking to at least at a minimum replace where we used to kind of do like a Christmas get together, and it didn't have to be Christmas per se, but just a full staff get together at some point where we all kind of got a chance to mingle.
Okay, so budget wise, if we talk about that next month, we can decide, financially what we need to do on that. Yep. Other major points, we've talk every month about restricted funds, which are the school lunch program and state sped. There is a specific, Brian put together a specific spreadsheet with the balances for those, where you can see how much revenue we have versus our expenses. We are continue to do a pretty good job with that. That being said, we also need to continue to spend down. Like if you go back, I don't have right in front of me, but if you go back and look at last year compared to where we are this year, we are spending that money down. However, we're also getting new money all the time. And so that's going to be a continual process, but we are making progress. We're making more progress, I would say, with the school lunch program than we are with SPED. And that partly is with COVID, the ESSER funds and that. We have just gotten so much SPED money that it's taking some real thought for our staff to figure out how to best do it. But we are making progress there, and that's an area of concern. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you about?
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
Does PY stand for past year?
On which chart are you looking at?
I can't tell you because it's not opening up on my computer.
Says account ID, school budget, PY amount year to date. So probably start.
Is it previous year? That's what I thought. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. Okay, and then I did have a question about that too. I don't know if it's on 323.21 special ed and 320 educational services. I wondered why PI amount was so much higher than the budget amount, like so much higher. It was very higher. And I don't remember which page to tell you, because I'm not looking
Can
at it.
somebody see where she's looking?
It's just what she was talking
Okay,
about,
that's
trying
right.
to spend that down.
Yeah,
She must have been rolling over.
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, probably, I should probably catch you up a little, Steph.
I know, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't remember all this stuff.
So with both the school lunch program and SPED, we have too much money that has not been spent. And so like this last year, that's been a major issue. But on top of that, the COVID funding, the federal COVID funding that came in, increased exponentially the amount of money that we needed to spend, especially with SPED.
Okay.
And so we kind of already had a problem we needed to solve and then added more money on top
Okay,
of it.
that's great, that's what that's all.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. for sure.
So
That's
we-
why I was like, what?
We're headed in the right direction, but it's going to take more than 1 year to get that spend out in the way it needs to be. But we are making progress, and that's something we're watching really closely.
Technology line?
There is tech, so from the ESSER funds, from those federal funds, there is a lot of money that's coming in for different things. Part of it is SPED. There is some money that's especially SPED, but there's also money for different things that has to be used in very specific ways. For example, most of it has to do with mitigating the effects of COVID on education. We have purchased a lot of technology with that funding because that is something that we were short on that can help.
Okay, well, because there was one, 734.1 technology and 734 tech hardware, that wasn't the budget at all. So I wonder why that was. If that was because we have so much money that doesn't necessarily need to be in the budget, that we're trying to spend it. I'm figuring out.
And with ESSER, like they added new funds again this year. And so really those COVID funds it's increased our budget significantly. We have a lot of money, but that money has a lot of streams. And so
Yeah,
it has to be really
Yeah,
specific.
our problem is that we always get a bunch of money that says SPED, but now and some of it has some strings attached to, SPED, but this area of SPED, now we're getting more with more strings attached. So we're in trouble if we don't spend it down, but at the same time, we're in boxes with some of it where we can only spend it on certain things or in certain ways. And you can only buy so many iPads or so many different things before you have to go, what else is there to get?
Yeah, because there's somewhere else that's been done. Okay, PTIF, we don't need to talk a lot about this, but Stephanie, if you're not familiar, this is the Utah Public Treasurer's investment. That's where we can put excess money we don't need to use right away. It's very simply, it's one investment account. It's one investment account. We have that money we can access quite quickly if we need it, but it's really the only good way we can invest. If you look at it, we have just over 2.5 million in there. If you look at the bottom and see that reinvestment number for September, that's basically the interest we made off of that money, and then it just rolled back in. You can see the interest stands pretty standard. It's dropped a little this month, but it looks, it's always around there.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah.
In the folder, there isn't the normal Red Apple kind of consolidated pretty view. Did that not get sent this time?
Let me go look.
Where it shows days cash on hand, account balances, all that stuff.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't know where that's at.
Yeah, that's fine. I just noticed it was missing. And then if we could get Brian to send that out at some point to us so we can review it. And then last meeting, we talked about the finance committee talking about whether it was time to put a little bit more money into the PTIF based off of where our balances were sitting. Did we have a chance to have that conversation?
So to be honest, Brian, it was not a super good time for him. He had a baby going into surgery.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait until next month. That is still something we can discuss, but
I did think it was odd compared to last time I wasn't seeing.
Yeah, so, but we can just make sure that report gets sent out to everybody.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll go look and see, I may have that, but, he didn't. Okay. It was kind of an odd month.
Yeah.
But, let's see, let me see what I didn't cover that I want to tell you about. If you look at the expenditures in those budgets, the things that are high, we know would be high, like furniture, that has, you kind of purchased that in the beginning of the year, lots of tech purchases, like Stephanie noticed, a lot of those came out of ESSER funds. Of the library money, has been spent, fees and licenses were up front. Everything else looks like, we're kind of flowing right about where we would expect to be. Now, there's one more thing that we want to talk about before we finish up on this. Let me see if I put it. So we met with someone, I'm going to pass you out these papers. You can Google this and get as much information as I'm handing out, Rod. It's not really complicated, but there is a company called Divvy that we met with, there are 2 papers, that we met with at the beginning of our finance meeting to talk about what they do and how it could benefit us. So Divvy is kind of like a credit card company, but basically what they do is you apply for a line of credit with them, and they have an app that basically would allow Sue to divide up expenses and skip, if she decides to, a lot of the expense reporting goes right into their app. So like if we have a teacher with a $400 budget, Sue can assign them $400 to their credit card. And then when they purchase things, right in the app, they can upload their receipt and it goes to Sue and it gets reconciled and basically saves a ton of work. The program itself, there is no cost to us. The way Divvy makes money is by splitting the credit card fees with, I guess, that.
They're the processor, so they keep it part of the fees, kind of like some give you back cash back.
But so there isn't a cost to us up front to use it. But the amount of work that it would change for Sue is phenomenal. Like it's enormous, but yet, like Brian went through and asked all the finance questions, as far as what we can see now, there really isn't a downside. It goes right into bill.com. It doesn't really change how we do our reporting. It goes into QuickBooks that he uses. They'll set up like something that transfers all that information directly so that we have that. What we are looking to do with this is probably start with just the teacher budgets for now, and not the big ones like Discovery, but the little ones, and so that each teacher has more control over what they're expending, and not so, Sue doesn't have to do so much of that work. And then if it works well, we may look at expanding that to, not again to put the whole Discovery budget for the year in, but here's how much money Discovery is going to need for that month. It goes in there, it's in place, they can spend that money, they can upload the receipts, and we're still getting all the information that we're getting now, but without a handler, without Sue having to work.
So much.
Deb, can I interject just a little bit? Great. So one of the big things is, and I promise I wasn't looking at this just to take work off of my plate. That's not what's the purpose. But, I do know a company that's been using it for many, many years, and very successfully. They've been very happy with it. And so that's why I finally decided to look into it, because I think that it could streamline a lot of things for our teachers and their frustrations, because right now they do have their class budgets where it's already written into our policies that they can spend those budgets. It's pre-approved. It's at their discretion how they want to spend those. And right now they either have to do it out of pocket and then submit a reimbursement, or they need to come to the office or send an email to somebody and have them order things for them with the company card. And so this would enable each teacher to have their own card. that their budget could be loaded onto, and it could be monitored closely. And then if there's ever a reason that we need to rescind those cards or stop access to them, that can also be done immediately. And like Deb said, it uploads they can upload their receipts, everything into it. And then it can go through we had another meeting with them today, Brian and I did, a tiered process of approval. So we could have, the director would go in and approve it initially, the school directors for the teachers' budgets. And then I could go in, make sure that it's booked to all the correct programs and budgets and departments, because that's something that's very, very important. And then it could go up to Esther, where Esther would look at everything and then approve it. So we would have several different levels of approval with each, purchase or the budgets. So we could do that. So that was one of the big things. The other thing is, sometimes we do have people come and check out the school card because they're in a position that they need to spend some of that money and they don't want to have it out of their pocket and have a reimbursement, that they need to go to a store and physically buy something that can't be purchased online. And so for security reasons, it sometimes does worry me a little bit having that card. Not that I think anybody would do anything wrong, but having the cards, leave the school and go with different people. So each person would have their own card and be responsible for the money on that. And like I said, it is very quick and easy to monitor the money that's on the card. You certainly wouldn't put large amounts on. Divvy was just recently purchased by Bill.com. So Bill.com is who we do our bill approvals through, and they are completely, they can work with QuickBooks, which is what Red Apple does, and integrated to QuickBooks.
I know examples, adventure trip out there that needs money, having our school credit card on an adventure trip is kind of an issue. But this way she could set up, that someone has what would be needed in an emergency and things like that. She could quickly.
Yeah. So this sounds like a cool solution from the school. It sounds neat. It's a good way to control the budget, as long as Red Apple's happy with it. It doesn't compromise our control on our finances. We need to make sure that our financial policies don't have anything that would prevent it that needed to be changed, but it doesn't sound like it would. The only thing I would say is, even though it doesn't probably reach we're not paying them, but we are by using the card. So technically they are getting money for that. And I know there's a dollar limit before we really have to worry about like competitive bids and stuff. But Sue, I would just encourage you to go out and look at one or two of their competitors with Brian and make sure that there's, not somebody else out there that's better, that we can say we did our due diligence on it from that perspective. Like
I will look into that. And just so you know, I did contact the auditors also to make sure that they didn't have any concerns with this.
I figured you would have.
Well, yeah, I did. And like I said, Brian and I had a meeting with them today, and we felt much better about the different levels of approval that we can set up as far as auditing procedures go, because they have where we have our annual audit, they have an approval that you can see the records of approval that we could then submit to the auditors.
And I mean, it's Esther's call if this is the thing for the school that like she wants to do. If there's any policies we need to approve before it's rolled out, just let us know. And anything that makes it simpler and gets rid of paperwork just for paperwork's sake, I think is great. Well, I did drop in the chat one competitor, Sue, just that if you.
And I'll give them a call. And look into it. And this is something we definitely want to start small, possibly just the classroom budgets at first, and see how it works out for us.
It sounds like adventure or discovery might be a good
and definitely
test.
Adventure and discovery, but just dropping small amounts of funds in there at a time to make sure that everything stays secure.
That's neat. That's kind of cool.
It would be so awesome. So that's
several other schools that use it, and the teachers love it. Like I have friends, and they're like, "Why aren't you doing this? This is the best thing ever."
That's awesome.
It's a lot more.
It's like a headache relief for teachers. Yeah, that's cool. Like it is.
It was so
stressful to go through that.
Yeah, doesn't that sound so nice? And honestly, I work for Utah State University, and it looks very similar to the receipt process. When I buy, I have actually 2 credit cards for the university. I spend a lot of money on them. And when I do, I upload my receipts, you know, it goes through a process that's very similar to this. And so from my point of view, it's financially sound. You know, it's a financially sound process. I do think Sue is smart in the idea that we'll start small and make sure it works before we, you know, throw all our eggs in one basket. That using this doesn't mean we can't use other processes, you know, but we feel like it's a good way to go. Esther was in all of those meetings. She's comfortable with it. And obviously, as you can see, Sue and Brian are doing due diligence to ask all of the questions that need to be asked.
Matt is wondering if his password budget will reset after we.
Well, he can talk to Sue about that. But that's all I have unless there are questions on finance.
I
Any
didn't
other
get to hear
questions?
that question, so
You didn't hear it?
no.
Matt wants his budget to reset when we move to this.
I'm pretty sure everyone does.
Yeah. In a- Any
I
other
only
questions?
asked, Sue, I only asked about me though.
Oh, well, Matt, you're a special case, so we'll talk.
Matt, you'll get a special card. It looks like the Divvy cards, but it doesn't actually work. All right. Thanks very much, Deb. Appreciate it. All right, Dina, you're up. A sexual education and maturation program report, as well as I believe there's a motion as part of this.
Yeah, so you guys should have gotten all that super fun data. Part of it is when I send in future form, I just have to sign that the board reviewed that. So I just need your assurances that you reviewed all of that fun data. I know it was super
I can
fun.
assure you, I looked at every one of those reports and they were all very disappointing.
Yeah, it's so fun, right?
Very alarming.
Yeah, right? It's fun. And then it's interesting though, I can't remember who pointed out, Hasmin, was it you? That only 2 of them are actually teenagers. And the rest of them are just,
General,
HIV
the general population,
yeah,
not just like teens.
pregnancy.
There was like,
The
there was like teen
pregnancy.
pregnancy,
Mhm,
Yeah, the teams are all different.
Yeah.
Others.
but like all the STDs and all that other stuff is just Utah numbers. It's not kid
So
numbers.
always have that.
That actually makes me feel so much better, because when I was reading this, I was like, this is school?
Yeah.
Like it was all.
Yeah. I think it just says, yeah, and the only one that says adolescence is the teenage pregnancy, which is also, I guess COVID wasn't keeping people away. And then, the 2 motions is, just this, that we're keeping the 5th grade maturation with Audra Taylor, and then the life skills for the curriculum. And they do need to be 2 separate motions.
I can't remember now, somebody sent me an email that I have the wrong name down for who this is. That we are keeping, is it Dr. Taylor?
It is Audra. I believe it's Audra Taylor. I asked Brett. Brett, are you here?
Yeah, it is Audra Turner. Audra Turner.
There we go. Audra Turner. Thanks, Brett.
You're welcome.
I fixed it in the agenda, I think. Actually, I can't see if I fixed it. It's Stephanie's looking at the line below and her name's up on the dock above mine. Did I spell Turner right?
Now it's turn around.
There we go. All right, so is there a motion on the table to retain Audra Turner, the 5th grade maturation presenter, and also retain the Botvin Life Skills state curriculum for 5th and 8th grade?
So much.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from the board?
I actually have a question, Dina.
I do have a question. You were in our meeting.
I know. This is my question because Adrian asked it of you, because she wanted to look at the maturation program and you said it's owned by the lady. So previously when we've done maturation, we have had the presentation available for parents to review. Like, is that something that's going to be available for parents to look at when they're deciding if they want their kids to go, or if they want to go with their kids, or if they want to keep their kids home and talk about it with them?
She does not give out the whole presentation because she owns it. She does have that she gave us last time when we went with her last year. She has that short video, the YouTube video that she shows, and then she has an outline of what she covers.
Okay.
That she gives to the teachers. But like she owns her presentation because she's her own company.
Okay. So parents can
The one
request.
that Jeff said it was. Yeah, Jeff said it, I saw was the. Yeah, that's the whole thing. But yeah, I can- yeah.
But they can see what is going to be covered, what the content is that's going to be covered. And,
Yeah,
okay.
she has the, yeah. she
Because I
has the-
didn't think about that. I just assumed, I guess, because when my kids were that age, I was able to request what was going to be covered, so.
Yeah, she has a point thing, and I can remind her of that parents might ask for that. Because last year, to my knowledge, nobody requested that, but
Yeah.
she had said that was something she offered,
Okay.
but to my knowledge, nobody had requested that, and so like I totally forgot about it.
Okay.
But she
I
did
didn't
say-
think about it either
Yeah.
until.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, then let's vote. Stephanie?
Definitely, I'm.
Oh my gosh, I just blanked out. Adrian?
Audra.
I was reading on the paper, sorry. Hasmin?
I.
Karen?
Karen, I.
Deb?
Yeah, bye.
All right, motion passes. All right, next up on the agenda is policies, and this is a discussion item, 7100 clubs. Hasmin?
This is a super long policy, so everybody read it.
It is.
Probably yours.
It's really, really long, Hasmin, and it's very controversial.
So actually, I just wanted to review and make sure that I'm remembering right, because Annette and I were trying to remember, because right now it says you changed, Entheos will not have any school sponsored clubs. You added that in? Okay, because the question was, because we had originally said Entheos will have no non-curricular clubs. And we had some after-school clubs, but they all were curricular in nature. But then our after-school program became 4-H. And so we just wanted to make sure that, and I remember Eric saying, and I think it was because 4-H was, let's just say we don't have clubs, then we don't have to worry about controversy and people, pushing controversial clubs that are going to cause problems among our parents.
And what we know is within 4-H, the clubs we offer at the school, especially where they're grant funded, are all educationally based clubs.
Okay.
So we don't say that in this policy, but that is what is, that is kind of what our agreement is we write grants that allow.
I wanted to make sure I was remembering right, because she added in school sponsored, but at first it just said Entheos will not have any clubs. And so I wanted to make sure I was, I feel like I remember Eric saying, let's just say Entheos doesn't have clubs, then we don't have to get into what is.
Basically, the school as an entity does not have any clubs. We have partnered with 4-H, which does provide some after school.
And what happens when we have a controversy, because those do come up, is basically what the office does is have them email me, not as a board member, but with my job, and I explain to them, we do educationally based clubs that meet the requirements of our grant. And it just closes the conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
Chess club could be. I don't think we have one right now, but it could be. We just put them all under 4-H. And as long as it meets the guidelines that it's, educational and teaching the things that we need to be teaching, then we do it. But there aren't, we don't really do like interest. I don't want to say interest-based clubs because you could be interested in chess or theater or whatever, but you know what I mean? We don't do even things like the Latino club or the, you know, they're not based on that. They're based on an educational piece.
So that's
right.
what that policy is, so it's all.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does this include like sports as well, like school sports? Would that be considered clubs if we were to have that?
So that's a really good question. That in Kearns, that has never really been an issue because they've never done sports. They have here, they've done, and there have been some problems with that in the past as well. The biggest thing with grants, like we can do a sports something in after school and that's okay.
Yeah.
What we can't do in after school is something that excludes kids. So if we have tryouts for the basketball team, but only 8 kids can be on it, that in our grant, it says we can't be exclusionary. And so that wouldn't.
But for the purposes of this policy, Entheos does not have Entheos sports that go on with tryouts and things like that. There's also other liabilities that come with sports that we've just never wanted to expose ourselves to outside of a PE program.
So that's
But if
where.
And there's also the issue with fees, because we do not charge any fees.
Correct.
And so anything that if it were to happen, that's why we, you know, run it all through the 4-H. So we don't have that fee issue.
It's a nice buffer from all of those issues. All right, so the whole purpose of policy reviews, Stephanie, when the policy committee reviews a policy, they bring it one meeting forward for us to kind of review and talk about and chat about. And as long as there's no major, you know, concerns about the way it's written, then the next meeting we approve that, and we just keep cycling through every year to make sure we've updated all of our policies. So it sounds like this one's pretty easy to send forward for next meeting for a approval. All right, any other conversation on this particular policy? All right, board development. I think I hinted to this last meeting, but as I get reminded very regularly by Deb, our audit committee needs more members on it.
We need one more meeting.
Yes.
It has a specific number, and now that we added Stephanie to the board, we need one more audit committee member.
But it's a good opportunity to get exposed to things as a board member that we normally wouldn't, and just kind of dive in kind of an unusual way. You know, it's different than some of the other jobs that a board member would do, but hoping to see is there any board member who would be interested in volunteering to be part of the audit committee?
How often do you meet?
Not very, to be honest, we need to start meeting. But the goal, the purpose of the audit committee is just to take a look at the finances and make sure things are going okay. And we also have some responsibility that we, to be frank, haven't really been doing. Like, for example, with an audit, it is really the audits committee's responsibility to choose the auditor, not Red Apples. Now, I'm not unhappy with the auditor we have, but we really should be part of that process. That's one of the.
Deb,
Yeah.
can I just, okay, Red Apple didn't choose Squire. We went through, the board actually chose them because we had Squire originally, and then we went to a different auditor, and then the board went back. We met again and we went back to Squire. So just so you know, Red Apple doesn't.
But
that process.
the audit committee every year should evaluate whether they would like to continue with the current auditor, go out and find a new one, that sort of thing.
Formally, the audit committee needs to, what we haven't been doing is we haven't been approving that formally, is really what I should say, Sue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make sure you knew that wasn't a relationship like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not at all unhappy with who we have. We just, now that they, you know, they've kind of clarified in the trainings what the audit committee does, and we really formally should have on record that piece. And I don't think, as I read the documents, that has really always been that way, but that's how it is with the state now.
So those of you on Zoom, can you hear this talking?
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna say, guys, there's been a couple of sidebar conversations on both sides of the screen that have made it really hard to hear Deb, and it's being broadcast to the YouTube. It's kind of hard to hear with the sidebars going on. Apparently, those mics are super sensitive.
Back to you, Deb.
Okay, but so like I said, it's not so much a concern about how we've been doing it. I actually think Squire does a great job. But we really need to have the committee formally approve it to follow the state guidelines. Does that make sense? And so that's one of them. And then there are several other smaller things that you might not necessarily consider to be audit, but they're all financial in nature. That the audit committee just needs to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's on everything financial. Mhm.
So what if you don't have a lot of knowledge about the financial aspects of all of
Best
this?
way to learn.
Yeah, you don't have to have a lot of knowledge. The way the audit committee works is it needs to have 3 board members on it for the size of board we have. We can also invite community members to be on it if we want to, but they cannot be anyone employed by the school or employed by Red Apple. I know that sounds funny, but it's the separation piece is where that's at. However, we can occasionally, like if we wanted Sue to clarify something or Brian to tell us something, we can invite them to come. They're just not part of the committee. Does that make sense? And we can choose whether the audit committee is just those 3 board members or we want to invite a parent, or we can invite other people to be on it, but they can't be our paid staff.
I could give it a shot. I don't know much about finances of schools.
I don't think you have to know, you just have to be
No.
willing. So-
Yeah, I like learning.
And I'm interested in who wants to do it. I am interested because I would like to learn budget again. I used to be much more. Oh, I'm sure it's changed so much.
Well, if you'd like to do it, you can certainly do it, but if there's no one, I would be glad to do it. So whatever, I'm happy.
The only thing I would throw out there is also there are other committees that we're going to have to form here in the future in relation to like Exhibit A and stuff. So if any of you had interest of being like on the Exhibit A committee, which is kind of the revision to the charter agreements with the state and whatnot, then just keep that in mind.
I do want to be on.
Yeah, and that one, I think you'd be good.
I had a sneaky suspicion, Stephanie, plus I was going to ask you.
Well, I'll let you do this one.
Okay, I'll do this one and you do that.
Make it sound like maybe the other one's gonna.
All right. So we do need to officially vote members onto committees. And technically this was supposed to be a motion, Annette, that bullet. So I think we're still good to vote that, yeah, with the way the agenda is.
Yeah.
All right. So then is there a motion to appoint Karen to the audit committee?
I motion we appoint Karen to the audit committee.
And a second.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation from the board? Okay, then we'll vote. Karen?
Aaron, I.
Deb?
Deb, aye.
Stephanie?
Stephanie, aye.
Adrian?
Adrian, aye.
And Hasmin?
Aye.
All right. Karen, thank you.
Yeah.
Deb
I
will
will
be
give
your
her my-
Deb will be your sage guide through the audit committee issues. No, it's pretty straightforward. There is some training, I think, on the state website that'll help. On
there
just
is-
kind of
Show you where that's at.
what your
Actually,
what the function is, and it's a good time to come on with the audit kind of wrapping up as well.
Okay, yep, I'll give it a good shot.
All right. Hasmin, you have a whole host of policies we reviewed last meeting. I don't have any further questions on them, but it looks like it's new board member protocol, the maintenance of effort and equivalency among schools, teachers, administrators, auxiliary personnel, as well as provisioning of curriculum, events and activities and assessment opt-out.
Okay, so,
What do we need to know about these, if anything?
well, okay, the new board member protocol, we discussed at the last board meeting, changed some wording, made sure we were on the same page of what we want to happen, so that one should be good. So the 3107, 3108, and 3109 are all ones that were not on our agenda last month. Am I right? Am I getting the right one?
Yep, those are correct. Those are the ones that the state requires, right?
But we need to have them approved this month. So hopefully you all were able to look over them. If Annette or Sue, you want to speak to them about what's important about them, or if everybody's read them and understands them and we're good to go, that's fine too.
And all this, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, but all of these basically are just assurances that we give that we distribute fundings and staff based off of our school's numbers, and that we don't just like do funny things with it. We continue our programs. We do it as done. If something unpredictable occurs at the beginning of the year that aren't included, then we determine it based off of what our intentions were before as an equal distribution type thing. Did I get that right, Sue?
Yes, yeah, that was a good overview. They are just for our Title I, our yearly assurances. So just assurances to the state that we do everything like we should be doing them.
And then the assessment, that was just, you know,
And once again, this is a required thing from the state that we have a policy on that.
able to opt out of testing and how they go about doing that. So, and then the 7101 events and activities, we also reviewed at the last board meeting and just talks about our family value and our respect for family time and why we have certain time set aside that we don't plan activities in the building. So if there's no questions. We can...
Any questions from the board? All right, is there a motion to approve the new policies?
I motion to approve the new policies. And I request a change to that motion. They're not all.
Okay, sorry, I read it the way it is, so we'll probably need to do a motion to approve policy in just the numbers 2200, 3107. Somebody want to do amend it?
I will the new and updated policy.
Ah, nice, I like that. Is there a second?
Okay.
All right, that worked for you, Annette?
That'll work.
Sounds good. All right, any other comment from the board? All right, let's vote then. Adrian?
Adrian, aye.
Steph?
Stephanie, aye.
Hasmin?
Aye.
Deb?
Deb, aye.
And Karen?
Karen, aye.
All right, they are approved. All right, next one's mine. I would like to motion that we form a bylaw and charter update committee. This is about Exhibit A, as well as just our bylaws are getting a little old in the tooth, and we might want to review a few of those, as well as be able to react better to the changes coming from the charter review as from the state. So I wanted to discuss it first and see if there's anybody really super interested in being on this committee. I definitely would like to be on it, but and I would like to have 2 board members at a minimum. 3 would be perfect. Anyway, just throw it out there. First of all, would anybody like to be on this committee?
Yeah, I would like to be on this committee.
Okay.
Brock, can I ask why you're combining the committees?
There's a lot of overlap between the two things. Our bylaws are impacted a little bit by our charter, or used to be, and just it's going to take some board members anyway. So we just figured we just do it all at once.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little concerned about, because I know that the Exhibit A committee is I just worry that you're going to have those waters muddied a little bit by having the same members on both committees, especially when it comes to parents, and you might just have more input than you want.
This is just a board. This is just a board committee. We will be inviting others to assist the board. and they don't have to be for both items. We may discuss them separately. We may take tasks out of it. It's just a couple of board members to oversee those critical items as they move forward.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's fine. But if we find it's money, then we may split them. It's a good call out. So I didn't think about it, to be honest. But I think that there's going to be some overlap on the two, at least at the front end. And we might actually address one before the other, because I think that while we're waiting for the charter review guys to do their bit, and they've been a little silent so far, we might just get started on bylaws and get them taken care of.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So would this committee would also be the committee that is in doing like our charter update, discussing our relationship with EL education and moving forward, what that relationship will be? Would that?
I don't think that this committee, I would not envision this committee ruling on that, because I don't think Exhibit A is that deep. My read of Exhibit A is it's much more about numbers and metrics. I think that something like that would be reserved for a full board conversation. It might be brought to the board by this group.
That's changing the charter. Like that's
I feel like when this subject came up over board retreat and just as we've talked about it in passing, I feel like we had kind of talked about with Esther that there would need to be some research done into looking at costs, impact on our school with, moving forward, continuing with the way we do our contract with EL, or if we maybe wanted to do something else more in-house, how would the cost be affected? What value are we getting from EL based on what we would lose? So my remembering is that Esther was wanting a committee or group of people that would do that background, that would do that research and say, okay, here's what we're looking at. Here's what we think is probably the best solution, but here's all the information we've put together. What do you guys think, like as a board? And so she was, when I was talking to her, she was mentioning that a committee would be something important to do that groundwork. And
I mean, I think that it could start in this committee. It might spin further than that. Are you thinking that this committee should?
I don't know. We need to form a committee that will do that. And I had mentioned, and I think like Annette was kind of under the impression when I mentioned to her putting this forming of this committee on, she mentioned that this conversation would be happening. And I think she was kind of under the impression that it would follow that based on what you guys talked about in executive meetings.
My brief reading of the Exhibit A process doesn't lead me to believe that a decision, yes EL, no EL, tweak EL, whatever, is necessarily going to be required for Exhibit A, because they're not kind of asking that sort of narrative-based, like systems-based stuff. But I think that if we thought that it was needed, then the committee would bring it back to the board and decide if they wanted the committee to go forward and do it, or if they wanted to, form a separate group to do more.
I guess my question is, I think we need a committee to explore our future relationship with EL. So,
okay, and that's what I was getting at, Hasmin, is like, if you would like this committee to also do that, I think that we could put it in, but it's not necessarily have to be done by this committee.
That's fine. I don't care either
Really
way.
keep in mind the way the state charter school board committee looks at this. They look at Exhibit A as you just restructuring the physical nature of your charter.
Yep.
Changing anything. And then when you want to change things, it's in the right structure for you to make changes.
What
So
it is,
what's
in the right structure for
the charter?
the charter.
The charter.
Not the thing.
So Exhibit A and charter are, they're two pieces of the same charter, okay? So when you go through the Exhibit A process, you take your old charter and you're putting it in a format that the state charter school board can utilize better for when you want to make changes. The Exhibit A section will contain your bylaws and a few other things that can be approved by consent agenda by the state charter school board. Your charter, which is the more detailed things about like EL and these kinds of things. Your goals will be in your exhibit A, because those get updated over time. But we want to change your core charter, it requires an amendment to your charter, and it's that long, painful process.
That we've done before, that we would have to go.
Right. And
You
so the part we have to do is Exhibit A. We have to do that.
Okay, well, then my next question is if we need to have a separate committee then to be doing that.
We
And
can't, that's our
Can I-
choice. We can, or we can have a separate committee. We can have the same committee do it with just different tasks. I mean, from an order and sequence perspective, our bylaws in Exhibit A are going to be like the things we probably have to address first. Or if we want a separate committee to go out there and just look at alternatives to EL, or if EL is the best answer.
I feel like
Huh?
this process of making a decision of EL is going to be a
Bigger.
long process.
Yeah.
We'll make a decision at the, before school gets out in the spring, but something we should start working on now, start exploring, start looking
I
at.
agree.
So that's why I think we need to form a committee now. I'm not saying that we're gonna try to amend the charter before we finish Exhibit A. I'm saying we need a committee to start looking at this stuff. And if the
Yeah.
Exhibit A committee is not the right committee for that, I'm fine. But then can we still form that committee tonight, or do I have to wait till next month?
I think the formation of this specific committee has to entail bylaws and charter update as listed. If charter update is just Exhibit A, that's fine. If we want this committee to also start the footwork for the board as it relates to the charter and its relationship with EL, we can do that at the same time. We're not limited. It's our decision. It's our committee.
Asking, can we, if we want to separate that out, do we need to wait until next month to form another committee, or can we do that now?
Probably. It would probably need to be a separate motion to form another one. That's kind of my read of the way the rules are, Annette, right?
That would be the best practice. Yes.
But if we want this committee to do kind of all of that, then we just make it part of the motion because we're forming this committee.
But I kind of think that's that's kind of two separate jobs.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's whatever the board feels is best. If we want to put on the agenda for next meeting, a discussion specifically about EL and EL's future at the school, I think that we need to start doing that and talking about it regularly anyway. And if the step one is form a committee, let's do that. Is that where everybody kind of sits as far as the EL side of things go?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, seems fair to me. But tonight we do need to form a committee around the bylaws and charter updates as it relates to Exhibit A. So, anyone want to be on the committee?
I am very interested in this, but I also realize I do a lot because of the treasurer. So if someone else wants to do it, I am okay with it, but my caveat would be that we make sure at board meetings that we take the time to talk about it well, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to do it if somebody else wants to, but I also am happy to step back because I have a lot.
Well, and that's a good conversation in general, Deb. I think just like we have a section of our agenda for the budget committee updates, which is basically what the budget and finance section is. These other committees that are forming are going to have a spot on the agenda to give updates.
Mhm.
I mean, that the whole point of a committee is to go do the work for the board and then come back and get feedback from the board.
Right.
And direction. So that's not unreasonable at all. All right, so Stephanie wanted to be on it. Deb, it sounded like you wouldn't mind, but also you've got a ton of other things going on. We just got Karen onto another committee. So you're welcome on this one too, or Adrian or Hasmin. Do one of you want to be on this committee?
EL one, but if
Okay,
I need to be on this one, then I'm happy to do that as well.
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Joel might be a wonderful resource for your exhibit A, because I think he's already seen that process done.
Yeah, I think.
All right. So Joel's not here to ask. Do we want to just form the committee with the two volunteers we have and then add Joel next meeting if he wants to do?
Yeah, what did he, yeah, didn't he
Yeah.
say
I
something
think
last
he's-
meeting?
I think he's, yeah.
I think we can vote him in
I think I recall last meeting, Joel specifically said that he would be willing to serve on the today.
I would be happy to have him there if we all remember that. How about we vote him in, but we give him an option to decline? Just in case we all misunderstood. Does that work?
Yes, there you.
All right. So to be clear, Joel, Steph, and I will be the 3 board members on this committee. All right. Then I motion we form a bylaw and charter update committee with the membership from the board being Stephanie Gibson, Joel Coleman, and Rod Eichelberger. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there any further comment? All right, let's vote then. Deb,
Deb, I.
Steph,
Stephanie, I.
Karen,
Karen, I.
Adrian, Hasmin,
I mean, I.
and Rod, I. All right. Hey, look, we have a committee. Okay. Great. That's all we have on our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Hold on. Yeah, Leah has something. Who's coming to where tomorrow?
Oh, yes, sorry. Staff recognition.
So I went to Kern's last time.
And I went to Magna.
We would love to have Karen and she can bring her books.
I normally can do it, but I volunteered to babysit tomorrow for grandkids, so I'm gone all
I can
day.
do it every month, starting in January when we move board meeting. I can't
I
go
can
on
do it.
Fridays.
I can do it next month. I feel bad.
But I have a question after that.
Time's at 8.
Yeah.
Ours is at 7.
Can you come
Ours
to?
is at 7.
Oh, wait, just
Yeah,
kidding,
so-
just kidding.
just
I will go
before
to
it.
Kern
Just
because
before
Brielle
it.
has a morning site tomorrow, so I have to take her at 6:30 in the morning, not at 8.
All right, so Hasmin's going to Kearns. Who's going to do a Magna?
I'll just bring Colin early and then come to Circle Up.
Magnus gonna, I've got kids who, I have to get kids to 2 schools, but normally I can. It's just this particular time.
I usually can too.
Can somebody do it on Monday? I mean, like tomorrow's really hard, but they do it on Monday.
I could,
Okay, I agree with that.
if that's hard for you though, Adrian, I could do Monday. Okay.
7:50.
And that makes it even harder. How hard that makes it hard.
Yeah.
You want me to do?
All right.
School yet.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
No.
Oh, now what?
It has to do with staff recognition. So are we still doing this for them like we were before?
Yes.
You just bring it when you come in the mornings? Well.
That's the idea.
I'm behind, so there have been some that haven't been given their gift yet. But because we haven't been going in person, I would just be mailing it to them. I see. So my question is it possible now, or is it still not a good idea to come in person? Because that is something I could do during the days, is take those staff recognitions that around, go into their classroom, observe for a little bit, and then give that to them like we used to do.
So we try to give them in Circle Up, right? So that the whole
Yeah.
staff can hear?
And so you can still go during circle up, and you should, like we used to.
Got
And
Follow up, yeah.
Okay.
this is a
Cool.
more personal.
Yeah, you can do the gift cards whenever. And if you wanted to do that and hand them out, that's fine.
Is that fine?
Yeah, everybody would love it.
Awesome.
Now
All right. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Adrian,
I second.
Oh, okay. Didn't hear you. Sorry. All right, let's vote. Adrian,
Adrian, I.
Hasmin,
I mean, I.
Stephanie,
Something I
Karen,
Karen, I.
and Deb.
Deb, I.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.